Seudat Purim. The Gemara Megillah says, Shalo Talmidav Roshim ben Yochai. The Talmidim asked Roshim ben Yochai, B'pnei ma nischayvu Yehudim b'oisa dor kliya. Why were the Yidden deserving of destruction? Why, by the time of Purim, there was a gzera, a punishment, lahashmid or laharag? What was the aver? What was the chet that was deserving of a punishment, such a terrible punishment of destruction? And he answered, because they participated in the Seudat of Achashverosh, they participated in that Seudat Shaloisa Rasha, therefore they were deserving of this punishment. Now let us try to analyze this for a moment. What could have taken place at that Seudat that therefore they were deserving of such a punishment? Could it be machol tzasuris? Could it be that there was food that was not kosher? Could it be that it was yayin, stam yayin? Could it be that they overindulged themselves? None of these things are averas, as terrible as they are, but they're not averas that carry with them the death penalty, and certainly not the destruction of the entire nation. So what could have taken place at that Seudat that therefore they were deserving, that Klal Yisrael was deserving al-hashmin al-harig? And even more so, the Dovid Mishurim says that there was no Isser over there in terms of macholos asuras. The Megillah says, "V'hashtiya kadas ein eines." The drinking was in measure. There was no courage, and he says, and that referred to the entire Seudat. There was kedas. The Seudat was kedas. The food was kosher. It was cooked by Yidden. There was no bishul akum. There was no stam yainim. It was all mutar. It was all macholas that were mutarais. So, what happened? What was the terrible avera? What took place over there? What was the terrible avera? Nischayvu kliya. And furthermore, it's puzzling that on Purim we celebrate. And how do we celebrate? We celebrate with a Seudat. One would think the affair took place during the Seudat, we would abstain and not have a lavish Seudat. No, but we have a Seudat. Well, one would think, well, yes, if we're going to have a Seudat, but it would be a Seudat that would be very measured and restrained and not to get carried away. But in fact, chayav adam lebesume ad lo yada. We know that of all the Seudas that we have, that's the one Seudat that we drink ad lo yada. And one would definitely assume that, well, look what happened to the Seudat of Achashverosh, and look what happened to Vashti, and look at the consequences, and look what happened to the Gzera. There was a Gzera on Klal Yisrael. We would think that we would not have a Seudat, or if we would have a Seudat, it would be a very measured Seudat, but it's just the opposite. How are we to understand this whole inyan? We know Yaakov Avinu had his epic battle with the Sarah Shel Esav. He battled with the Sarah Shel Esav. Of course, we are descendants of Yaakov ben Yisrael, and Amalek, Haman, they are descendants of Esav. And Vatar Kiloi Suchaloi, the Malach saw that he could not overcome Yaakov Avinu, V'tega b'kaf Yereichai. And so therefore he injured him on his thigh, and therefore we do not eat the Gid Nashim. And the Zohar says that he saw that he could not conquer Yaakov, so he injured his thigh. The thigh holds up the body, holds up the person. He therefore made a pagam. He injured the Taimchei Torah. He saw that he could not overcome Yaakov. Yaakov Avinu, he cannot bring down the Torah. He cannot bring down the Limdei Torah. He cannot conquer the forces of Torah. So therefore, in a devious move, he injured his thigh, the Taimchei Torah, the supporters of Torah. And on a simple level, that means is that he he damaged the supporters of Torah. He inflicted harm on them and inhibited their ability to support Torah, to continue to support Torah. If there's no support for Torah, it's very difficult to learn Torah. But there's a deeper understanding of this as well. That the forces of Esav are in conflict with the forces of Yaakov. Yaakov is Torah. Yaakov is Ruchni. And Esav tries to destroy the Torah, to destroy Ruchni. But Yaakov Avinu has another purpose as well. It's not only Torah and Ruchni, but it's the transformation of the Gashmi into Ruchni. And that was his battle with Esav. That was the battle for the brachas, for the bechira, for the brachas. Not only to be shlit in Olam Haba, in the Olam Shekula Ruchni, but to have dominion in Olam Hazeh, and to be able to subjugate the forces of Gashmi and transform them into Ruchni. And Yaakov Avinu succeeded in buying the Bechira, in getting the brachas and receiving the brachas. And that's Yaakov's mission. And Yaakov is in battle with Esav, who Esav tries to destroy Ruchni. And the Tsar of Esav saw that he could not succeed in that, so he damaged Yerechai, the Taimchei Torah, meaning that connection between the Olam Hazeh, the Olam HaGashmi, and the Olam HaRuchni, that connection between the two, where the upper part of the body, so to speak, the Ruchni, has shlit, has dominion on the Gashmi and the Olam Hazeh, and he severed that connection. Yaakov was limping. He was limping because he dislocated his thigh, and therefore we don't eat the Gid HaNoshim. Because Esav's scheme, the way he plans and plots, is if he can't destroy the Torah totally, he tries, but if he can't destroy the Torah totally, at least he will sever that connection between the Timchei Torah and the Torah, between the supporters of Torah and Torah, their ability to support the Torah, and on a deeper level, the connection between the Timchei Torah and the Torah, the Olam Hazeh and the Olam HaRuchni, the ability of Yaakov Avinu to transform Gashmi into Ruchni. And that's how Esav schemes. The Seudat of Achashverosh. The Seudat of Achashverosh was a lavish Seudat. It was a Seudat of Olam Hazeh. But it wasn't only a Seudat of Olam Hazeh. At that Seudat, Achashverosh brought out the Kelim of the Beis HaMikdash. And he wore the begonim of the Kohen Gadol. The Kelim of the Beis HaMikdash, those are the vessels where, through the avoid of the Beis HaMikdash, we transform Gashmi into Ruchni. That's the epitome of transformation of Gashmi into Ruchni. The Karbonas, the Behemoths become Reich Nichoyach LaHashem, becomes an avoid service to Hashem, Reich Nichoyach LaHashem. And the Ketairas, and he took those Kelim and the begonim of the Kohen Gadol, the begonim of the Kohen Gadol, the epitome of service of Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, the transformation of Gashmi into Ruchni, the Matorah, the Shlita of the Ruchni, the dominion over the Gashmi, the Matorah, the purpose, the mission of Yaakov, and he brought it to that Seudah, signifying that not that the Ruchni will be shlit on the Gashmi, just the opposite. His world of Olam Hazeh, of pure physical world, the Olam HaGashmi, will be shlit on the Olam HaRuchni, undermining completely and totally the purpose of Bnei Yisrael, Klal Yisrael, and disgracing it in front of their eyes. The biggest disgrace in front of their eyes. And Klal Yisrael, those who participated, Nenu misudosan shaloisa rasha, they enjoyed, they participated, but not only participated, they were forced to participate. And what can you do? They had to eat the food, they had to No, but more than they nanu. It's not the machalas asuras, because maybe there wasn't machalas asuras like the David Misharim says. Shti kadas einainis. And even so, it doesn't carry a death penalty. And even if it did, they were forced to partake in that Seudah. But it wasn't just that they participated in the Seudah. They had hano from that Seudah, meaning they also became people who subjugated the Ruchni to Gashmi. They were a nation of Gashmi who were willing to submerge the Ruchniyas to the greater service of Gashmias, undermining their whole purpose and mission in this world. It's Chayva Kliya, so what's the purpose anymore of Klal Yisrael? Then what's the point anymore? And what's the purpose? They've undermined their whole raison d'etre, their whole purpose in their being. And therefore, it's Chayva Kliya. What was the purpose for Klal Yisrael? Until, through the Nes of Purim, Kimu v'Kibu, they reawakened themselves. They were born again, so to speak. And that koyach within them, of Klal Yisrael, reappeared. It was submerged, and now it rose to the surface. And Kimu v'Kibu, the Makabal, the Torah me'ava. They were Makabal, the Torah me'ava. And they became a Klal Yisrael. And they were saved because they now reaffirmed their mission in this world. And they became Klal Yisrael. And therefore we eat the Seudah on Purim. The Seudah, as opposed to the Seudah of Achashverosh. Our Seudah Purim, which is a Seudah of Machal and Mishta, but understanding it's a Seudah where the Machal and Mishta isn't the service of the Torah, and this is a Seudah of Kabbalah Torah. This is a Seudah of Kabbalah Torah, or Makabbalah Torah. And it's the opposite of the Seudah of Achashverosh, submerging the Ruchniyas to the service, the greater service of Gashmias. This is a great Seudah, a Gashmi, of Shtia, Achil and Shtia, where we reaffirm our Kabbalah's HaTorah. Just to conclude with a beautiful word from Rav Chaim Shmulevitz Zatzal, who asked, Purim is a time of Kabbalah's HaTorah. Shavuos is a time of Kabbalah's HaTorah. On Shavuos and Hamayim and Har Sinai, there was koilus, a brokim, there was trembling, a ra'oda, fear, pach and nishmalsan. That's Kabbalah's HaTorah. The Torah, the Shechina. Gil Shechina, the Kabbalah's HaTorah. Purim we have Kabbalah's HaTorah, Ma'ava. And what do? We eat and drink ad de lo yada. What kind of Kabbalah's HaTorah is that, ad de lo yada? But he said a prerequisite for Kabbalah's HaTorah, Maimed Har Sinai, was ki ish echad b'leiv echad. That's a prerequisite for Kabbalah's HaTorah. Ki ish echad b'leiv echad as one. On Purim, we give shlach monos. We join together, we bind Klal Yisrael together, shlach monos, matonos lev yoinim, as one. And chayav adam lebesume, the shtia, lebesum ad lo yoda, which breaks down the barriers, or fundamentally there's achdas, but pnimius, Klal Yisrael, there's achdas. But we have these external barriers, these barriers, chitzoni barriers, and it breaks down those barriers so we become as one, and that's ki ish echad b'leiv echad, where we're zoicha to the Seudah of Kabbalah's HaTorah.